On June 20th, 2025, two students of Adekunle Ajasin University in Akungba-Akoko, Ondo State, Nigeria, who were known for their regular attendance in class, suddenly disappeared from school without any trace. The two students were 25-year-old John Friday Abah from the Department of Economics and 19-year-old Andrel Eloho Okah from the Department of History and International Studies. At first, their coursemates didn't make a big deal out of it because students sometimes miss classes for various reasons. But as the days passed and neither John nor Andrel could be reached, their friends began to worry. The concern grew stronger when a week went by without any word from either student. Their phones were not reachable and no one had seen them anywhere on campus or in the surrounding areas. It was completely unlike both of them to disappear without telling anyone where they were going. The families of the two students were also worried about their missing children, and as time went by, the situation became so serious that the concerned students and families decided to involve the authorities. They reported the disappearance to the police, hoping that law enforcement would have better resources to locate their missing friends. Little did they know that John and Andrel were already beyond help. As news of the missing students spread, their photographs began circulating on social media. Friends, family members, and concerned citizens shared their pictures, hoping that someone somewhere might have seen them or at least have information about their whereabouts. After all their efforts proved abortive, John's elder brother escalated the situation 4 days after their disappearance by submitting a petition through his lawyer to the police. The petition formally requested that the police launch an investigation into the disappearance of his younger brother and his friend. However, what the family didn't know at the time was that Andrel's body had already been discovered lying by the roadside by some villagers. The discovery was made on the 22nd of June 2025, which was just 2 days after they were declared missing and also 2 days before John's elder brother submitted the petition. The villagers had deposited Andrel's corpse in a nearby mortuary and also informed the police about the horrific discovery. Upon receiving the petition, detectives from the anti-kidnapping unit immediately swung into action. They began what would become an intensive investigation that would eventually uncover a web of betrayal, greed, and cold-blooded murder. The investigators used forensic tracking methods to trace the movements of the victims' belongings. The tracking led them to Computer Village in Ikeja, Lagos, a well-known market for electronic devices and gadgets. At Computer Village, the police found an iPhone 14 Pro Max that belonged to one of the victims. The phone was in the possession of a man named Abdul Mohammed Mubarak, who was 38 years old. When confronted by the police, Mubarak initially tried to claim innocence, but under pressure, he revealed information that would crack the case wide open. Mubarak confessed that he had purchased the phone from a man identified as Ojo Michael. This confession led the police directly to their next suspect. The investigation was moving fast, and each clue was leading them closer to the truth about what had happened to John and Andrel. Ojo Michael was arrested in a community in an entirely different state. It was during his arrest that the police made another significant discovery. Along with Michael, they recovered a Lexus RX 350 vehicle that belonged to John. The presence of this vehicle confirmed that Michael was deeply involved in whatever had happened to the missing students. However, the most shocking revelation was yet to come. During interrogation, Ojo Michael confessed to participating in the robbery, abduction, and murder of both John and Andrel. According to his confession, the person behind the plot was someone John had known personally. The mastermind of the kidnapping and murder was identified as Oladele Femi. It turned out that Femi was John Friday's landlord, someone who had intimate knowledge of the student's daily routine, his financial situation, and his movements. Femi had allegedly contacted Michael and another accomplice, identified only as Kola, to carry out the crime. The plan was not just to rob the students, but to collect as much money as possible from them. According to Michael's confession, while John was in captivity, they had forced him to transfer the sum of 800,000 naira from his bank account to them. He also confessed to violating Andrel, and that it was at this point that things took a deadly turn. It appeared as though the original plan was just to kidnap, rob, and probably request ransom from their families. However, while Michael was allegedly violating Andrel, she managed to identify him, and in order to prevent her from exposing them, they decided to end their lives and dispose of their bodies. According to Michael's confession, the bodies were dumped at separate locations between Agbado and Ode Ekiti. They wanted to make sure that even if one body was found, it would be difficult to connect it to the other victim or to trace the crime back to them. The arrest of Oladele Femi, the alleged mastermind, completed the picture of this shocking crime. During his interrogation, Femi confessed to initiating the plot and also helping to conceal the murders. It was a thing of shock to fellow students to hear that the man who had been trusted as a landlord, someone who was supposed to provide safe accommodation for a young student, had instead plotted that student's death for financial gain. With the confessions from both Michael and Femi, police were able to piece together the full scope of the crime. But there was still the heartbreaking task of locating the victims' bodies and providing closure to their families. The search for the bodies led the police to the border area between Ekiti and Ondo States, and since Andrel's body had already been discovered and deposited in the mortuary, it was just a matter of the police connecting their recent findings to the body of the missing students. Andrel's body was deposited at the General Hospital mortuary, where it would await autopsy and eventually be released to the family for burial. The suspects confessed that John's body was dumped in a river, but at the time of making this report, the body was yet to be recovered. As the legal proceedings began, the families of the victims hoped that justice would be served and that the perpetrators would face the full consequences of their actions. The case had already taken so much from them, but they were determined to see it through to the end. The investigation into the disappearance and murder of the two students continues as authorities work to apprehend the remaining suspect and also recover John's body. It will surprise you to know that within the same month, the police also rescued a 17-year-old student of Olusegun Agagu University of Science and Technology by the name Orowole Laughter, who was kidnapped for ritual purposes by a close person. The young woman was reportedly taken to an Ogboni shrine in Ilesha, where ritual incisions were made on her hand as part of what appeared to be a money-making ceremony. This incident shows how vulnerable students can become targets for those seeking to make money through any means necessary. The police successfully arrested an accomplice who was also a student in the same school as the girl, as well as the custodian of the Ogboni shrine where the ritual was about to be performed. Officers also recovered a white cloth that had been used during the ceremony as evidence. The victim is currently receiving medical attention for her injuries, while police continue their efforts to track down and arrest other suspects who managed to escape during the rescue operation. These cases highlight the ongoing problem of kidnapping and money ritual practices in Nigeria and the need for increased security measures to protect everyone. Share your thoughts on this case in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories.